I often ask questions for which there is no obvious answer because it's the conversation that matters and not so much the answer. I have a question right now for which there is, I believe, a definitive answer. And here's the question. Can there be anyone who does not yet know about yesterday's verdict against Donald Trump, who has been found guilty on all 34 counts? Clearly it's in the news and at the top of our minds, this verdict against a former president, which is both unprecedented and momentous. So when I heard the verdict yesterday, I immediately knew that I had to address the situation in my Devar Torah, which was coming up within 24 hours. But I felt equally another dilemma. How can I approach the subject without directly becoming partisan? Now, personally, of course, I do embrace a deeply partisan position. After all, I do have opinions. No. This is not, I think, congregational participation. Oh, but though I have felt the need to be partisan from this pulpit from time to time, and even from time to time to name names, to do so now, it seems to me, would deflect us from this situation's most important concerns. And so I intend to focus in the next couple of minutes on the issues and not on the players. While I was still mulling over how to proceed, I was reading early this morning a few articles in the New York Times Arts section, and I came across a piece of short statements about new or newer CDs. One of them was a review of a CD with the title After Bach 2, Roman numeral 2, After Bach 2, featuring the work of jazz pianist and composer Brad Mehldau. And while reading, I came across the following sentence. No matter how dense Mehldau's thickets of counterpoint may get, he can also put a melody over the thicket. Thicket and melody. The clarity of melody within the density of the thicket. And in a flash, I had my Devar Torah. How to bring out clearly the central meaning, the essential issue in this situation, without being overwhelmed by the multitude of factors that might obscure what is essential. And so, what is the essence here? What is the heart and soul of this trial? And by extension, the heart and soul of our American political and judicial systems. And this question itself, it seems to me, can be broken down into two further queries. What makes America America? And secondly, what keeps America America? The answer to the first question, what makes America America, is, I feel, pluralism. The cherished imperative to ensure that all people of different faiths and values and origins and skin color and ethnic identities, to ensure that all people who live here have the privilege of citizenship and the sense of belonging. Where there is no official religion or faith requirements, no privileged subculture, no official set of doctrines. To welcome all who pledge loyalty to the principles of American democracy. And to the second question, what keeps America, America? It is, I believe, the emphasis on process and not on product. The emphasis on the integrity of the methods through which we carry on our country's business in politics and in our judicial system. And this means that what is most important is not the outcome, but the method through which we got there. Or to put it another way, if the process is sound, then the outcome is sound and needs to be trusted. Methods, processes are, at their best, value neutral. They favor in advance no particular outcome. This has clearly been the case, it seems to me, in the trial of Donald Trump. A sound process of selecting a jury in which both parties participated, a jury of everyday citizens, of peers, who promised to follow the facts and the law in order to reach their decision, a judge who bent over backwards to be fair to both sides and impartial in his decisions, and hours of devoted jury deliberation. And so, when a decision is reached through impartial and fair means, then to trash that decision is to trash the entire edifice of our country's judicial system. And when this happens, the foundations that make America America become fragile and our country becomes weakened. This, in other words, is a dangerous moment. Now, as it happens, we have a stunning example of the centrality of process over product from our own Jewish tradition. It is stunning because it flies in the face of dogmatic versions of Judaism in which a premium is placed on the right way to think and the right way to prayer and the right way to conduct our daily lives. So here is an example of what I call a Jewish countercultural tradition, and it's from the Talmud. It happens that the rabbis were having a dispute over a particular oven and whether or not it was kosher. The dispute arose between Rabbi Eliezer and other rabbis. While Rabbi Eliezer opined that the oven was impure, the other rabbi said, no, it is pure, and a stalemate ensued. In frustration, Rabbi Eliezer said to them, if the halakha, if the law is in accordance with my position, let this carob tree prove it. Immediately, the carob tree was uprooted from its place, and it moved 100 cubits away. Some say 400 cubits. But the rabbis replied, one does not cite halachic proof from carob trees. Rabbi Eliezer, all right. If the halakha is in accordance with my opinion, let the stream prove it. Immediately, the stream turned backward. You get what's going on here? A miracle. The stream turned backward and began flowing in the opposite direction. But the other rabbis replied, we do not decide a halachic question by citing the movement of streams. Now Rabbi Eliezer has had it. If the halakha is in accordance with my position, Let the walls of this study hall prove it. And immediately, the walls of the study hall leaned inward and began to fall. But Rabbi Yehoshua scolded the walls and said to them, if Torah scholars are contending with each other in matters of halakha, why should you walls involve yourselves in this dispute? And immediately, the walls did not fall further in deference to Rabbi Yehoshua, but they did not retain their original upright position in deference to Rabbi Eliezer, like this. And this is how the Talmud says they remain to this very day. Now completely undone, Rabbi Eliezer said, if the halakha is in accordance with my opinion, and now he's going to go for it directly. He's already looked for indirect affirmation. If the halakha is in accordance with my opinion, let God prove it. Immediately, a divine voice emerged and said, why are you other rabbis differing with Rabbi Eliezer, since the halakha is in accordance with his position? His position is my position. At this tense moment, Rabbi Yehoshua stood up and said, is it not written, God, in your Torah, the Torah, is not in heaven? Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 12. Is it not written in your very Torah, the Torah is not in heaven? To this, the Talmud asks, what is the relevance of the phrase, it is not in heaven? To this, Rabbi Yirmiyahu replied, since the Torah was already given at Mount Sinai, we no longer seek an authoritative divine voice, since God has already written in the Torah, you shall follow the majority. Exodus chapter 23. And since the majority of rabbis disagreed with Rabbi Eliezer's opinion, whether or not you, God, agree with Eliezer, since the majority of rabbis disagreed with Rabbi Eliezer, his opinion is not the law. Pretty stunning, isn't it? Or, God, please do not interfere with the messy but essential processes which you yourself have authorized. Stay out of it. In other words, no privileged position, no particular bias, even with divine origin, that is not the result of the processes authorized by Torah. Not even God's view can be allowed to prevail. When the process fails, everything fails. Years later, the Talmud is not yet through with this. Years later, Rabbi Natan encountered Elijah the prophet. You may remember, Elijah is one of two people in the Bible who doesn't die. Elijah goes up to heaven. The rabbis are asking, what's he doing up there? Well, he's doing two things. He's waiting for the announcement that the Messiah is about to come, and he will usher in the Messiah. But he's also coming down to earth from time to time and talking to various rabbis and answering some of their questions. Years later, in other words, Rabbi Natan encountered Elijah the prophet and said to him, what did God do at that moment when the rabbis said, stay out of our discussions? The moment when Rabbi Yahushua issued the declaration that we do not pay attention to heavenly opinions during our discussions. What did God do? And Elijah replied, "The Holy One, blessed be he, smiled, and he said, 'My children have defeated me. My children have defeated me.'" Not bitterly, but with a smile, with pride. Namely, God asked them to be mature enough to manage their own affairs with the tools that I have given them. And I'm delighted that they've been mature enough and confident enough and faithful enough to have confidence in the process, which is really evidence for their faith in God, who has given the authority over the process to them. What is the moral of these two situations? When a society like America and a community like our Jewish community have members who embrace a variety of opinions and values and many different ways of doing things, and when that society places a high value on pluralism as part of the strength of the society, then only a commitment to the neutrality and the dignity of the process can allow that community to arrive at consensus and to flourish. Perhaps you'll agree with me. We Jews have a special stake in pluralism, both for the strength and durability of our community and for the strength and durability of our American community. And this means that those who malign and vilify and denigrate the process when its results are not to their liking, these are the people who are the real threat to the America we cherish, and we cannot allow them to prevail.